One time I was headed to a buddy's cabin. It was just another typical Friday at work. By evening, I was already zooming down the highway, anticipating some BBQ and beer. The cabin wasn't too far, just about 20 miles out of town, and I knew the route by heart. Could practically drive there with my eyes closed. It was straightforward for the most part, just a straight shot before you took a turn toward Grafsky Village, and from there, it was smooth sailing. That day, though, it was pouring rain with thunderstorms, making visibility pretty awful, so I was driving slower than usual, definitely not looking to get into an accident. About halfway through, I got stuck in a traffic jam. On a highway? How's that even possible? After 2 hours of crawling along at a snail's pace, I finally saw what caused it. Road work. Typical. It seems like every time I hit the road, there's always something. Construction, accidents. Anyway, I had to take a detour. Luckily, there was a side road right before the barricades with a sign pointing to a bypass through a village. The sign was so old, I couldn't even read the village's name. Oh well, I figured it couldn't be that bad. I might be delayed a bit more, but I'd still get to my friends eventually. As I turned onto the side road, I noticed I was the only one who opted for this route, while everyone else was turning back toward the city. Weird. Maybe they knew a shorter way? Whatever, I was already on the dirt road and didn't feel like turning around. Of course, there were no streetlights, and the road looked ancient and rarely traveled. The rain had turned it into a muddy mess. I just hoped my old car wouldn't get stuck in the muck. It was a tough drive, especially given my car wasn't exactly new. Finally, I saw rooftops in the distance. It was already past midnight, and the rain was turning into sleet. Perfect, just what I needed. Driving further in this weather seemed impossible, so I decided to call my friends and let them know I'd get there by morning, hoping to find shelter in this village for the night. I grabbed my phone. Of course, no signal. It's the 21st century, yet venture a few miles off the main road, and it's like stepping back in time. I just hoped my friends wouldn't start looking for me in the middle of the night and would just crash until I showed up in the morning. I rolled up to the first houses. The village seemed to be just one road lined with houses on either side. The houses didn't look very lived in. The first two I saw left me a bit stunned. Calling them old was an understatement. They were decrepit, rotting, and overgrown with bushes. None of the windows had lights on. Not surprising, given the late hour. People must be asleep, assuming anyone lived here at all. Suddenly, a flash of lightning revealed a figure on the road. It was tall, lanky even, with longer than normal arms, draped in rags. In the brief light, it dashed toward a nearby house. It all happened in a split second. I thought maybe, with the poor visibility and my tiredness, I'd imagined it looking like some monster. It had to be just a person trying to escape the sleet and get home. That's what I told myself. Good. That meant there were people here, and I could probably find a place to stay. I really didn't want to get out of the car. The rain was so heavy that just 30 seconds outside would soak you to the bone. But I had no choice. Sleeping in the car wasn't an option. I drove as close as I could to the house where that person had run. Grabbing my wallet, just in case the homeowners asked for payment for the stay, I braced myself and jumped out of the car. I sprinted towards the front door of the house, seeking refuge under the porch. Instantly, I was drenched, and it felt bitterly cold. Ah, early October weather. What a nightmare. Whoever said there's no such thing as bad weather clearly hasn't experienced this. The porch was leaky, but it was still better than being out in the pouring rain. I knocked on the door. Hello, anyone home? Silence. I knocked again. Nothing. Tried to open the door. It wouldn't budge. Great. Running to another house meant getting completely soaked and probably sick. I didn't want that. Maybe I should check around the house for another door. Yeah, that's an idea. With that plan, I edged along the side of the house, glancing briefly through a window. For a split second, I thought I saw some movement inside. Pushing through the overgrown bushes, I made it to the back of the house. Turns out, there was indeed a door there, leading to a garden, or at least what used to be one. Wait, Crosses? Why were there crosses here? The backyard looked more like an old cemetery than a garden. Something was definitely off. I didn't have much time to ponder this, as a door behind me creaked open with an ear-splitting noise. Without thinking, I darted inside. The door slammed shut, probably just a draft. The house smelled of mildew, dampness, and a bit like something was burning, but at least now I was out of the rain. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight, noticing I had only 15% battery left. Focusing the beam around the room, I saw a table, a chair, a mug, and some plates. Looks like I was in the kitchen. Suddenly remembering that I had barged in uninvited, I figured I should call out to whoever lived here. "Hello? Can I stay here for the night? I can pay you if needed." Silence, except for the rain tapping on the roof. Okay, if no one's here, maybe I can just crash without anyone noticing. And if the owners do show up, I'll explain everything to them nicely. Sounds like a plan. First, I needed to find a bed. No way was I sleeping on the floor. No bed in the kitchen, so I had to venture deeper into the house. The floorboards creaked loudly under my steps. Didn't help the creepy atmosphere at all. Nighttime, an old house with its own cemetery out back, creaking floors. It was like all the horror movies I've ever seen rolled into one. A chill ran down my spine. I moved out of the kitchen into a small room. On the wall hung a huge old clock. You know, the kind that chimes every hour. It looked ancient, and the pendulums were grimy. In the room, I also saw a table covered with dirty rags, possibly from dirt or something else. The room was in a terrible state, wallpaper peeling off, a ceiling full of leaks, and overall it looked eerie. The floor was smeared with dried mud. Next to the table was an old spring bed with a rusty headboard. Clearly, no one would choose to sleep on such an old bed. No one but me, I guessed. Sleep crept up on me unexpectedly. No wonder, considering the sleep deprivation from the work week and over 5 hours on the road. These 20 miles felt a lot longer than they should have. Realizing the house was probably abandoned and the owners weren't coming back, I plopped down on the bed, not worried it would collapse under me. Wouldn't be surprised if there was a basement here. The bed held strong, so that was a good sign. Using my bag as a pillow, I closed my eyes and fell asleep before I knew it. Somehow, all fear had vanished. I woke up to a strange noise, like someone walking in the kitchen, the floorboards creaking loudly. Opening my eyes and trying to piece together where I was, I sat up on the bed and shouted, "Is anyone there?" The footsteps stopped. Someone was definitely there. I got off the bed and headed to the kitchen. Nobody was there. Shining my phone's light around, I saw the floor was covered in fresh mud. What was that? What kind of dirty creature roams around at night? And where did it go? My thoughts were spinning in fear. Turning to leave the kitchen, I saw a tall shadow flicker into another room. I raced towards it. More mud. It led to a small trapdoor on the floor. How did I miss that when I first came in? So, do I go down there or not? I had never fought supernatural beings before. I sat on the bed, trying to figure out what to do next. Sleeping was out of the question, and running back to my car didn't appeal to me either. I had just dried off, and it was still pouring outside. I rummaged in my bag and found my old Swiss Army knife. At least it was something, although not very useful against anything otherworldly. Summoning my courage, I approached the trapdoor. Open it? No way. Why would I? What if there's something interesting down there? Yeah, right, like some kind of vampire. Still, I had to do something. Resolving my internal debate, I opened the trapdoor. The handle was covered in sticky mud, reeking so bad that I almost lost my lunch. It smelled like something dead. Fantastic. But since I was already filthy, I might as well go through with it. The trapdoor creaked open. I shone my phone light down, wooden steps descending into darkness. Great, descending into the unknown. Checking my phone battery, I noticed it was at 5%. Okay, quick descent, quick survey, banish any spooks, and back to bed. Sounds like a plan. Just as I bent down to start my descent, something shoved me from behind, and I tumbled down the stairs. Silence. My head throbbed with pain. I was lying on something hard and unpleasant. Touching it with my fingers, I realized it was porous and solid. Bone. Jumping up, I illuminated the cellar with my flashlight. Bones and human skulls covered the floor. Fear paralyzed me. Where was I? Who pushed me? How do I get out? While I was trying to make sense of it all, something rustled in the corner. It was sitting there, eating, judging by the chewing sounds. Suddenly, the noise stopped, and it slowly stood up. It must have been about 8 feet tall. Long, dry legs, arms hanging past the knees with claw-like fingers, and its head. Its head was a grotesquely toothy skull. No eyes, or at least none that I could see. With a blood-curdling scream, the creature lunged at me. Dropping my phone, I barely dodged and fell. "Get up, you have to get up," I muttered to myself. The creature lunged again, this time slashing across my chest with razor-sharp claws. Pain shot through my body. The creature roared and fell beside me. The Swiss knife was embedded in its chest. I had to get out. No way was I sticking around for another round, and I didn't have another knife. Scrambling up the stairs, I grabbed my phone and heard the creature rise and chase after me. Using all the strength I had left, I climbed the steep steps, barely noticing the decay beneath my hands and feet. Suddenly, something yanked my leg, pulling me down. Thank God my boots had zippers instead of laces. One quick zip, and the boot stayed with the creature as it tumbled down. I flung the trapdoor open. Dawn was breaking. Grabbing my bag, I rammed the front door with all my might, hoping to break it down. Either I wasn't heavy enough, or I didn't have enough momentum, but the door met me with a dull thud, knocking me back. A bolt. The door had a bolt. I was blind not to notice. Quickly, I unfastened it, and as I heard the creature's foul breath behind me, I yanked the door open, bolted to my car, and sped away. The rain had stopped, and fog blanketed the ground. As I sped off, I glanced in my rearview mirror, and there, all I could see was an old cemetery. No houses in sight. Standing out there were about 5 of those terrifying creatures, staring right at me. I eventually made it to the cabin. When my friends saw me the next morning, they were nearly speechless. Covered in mud, a bloody gash across my chest, missing a boot, hair all over the place. I told them everything. One friend looked at me in confusion and said, "There's no village out there, just an ancient cemetery." But wait, there was a village, but it burned down over 100 years ago. Everyone who lived there died, and they buried the villagers right where the town once stood. "Yeah, I think we'll take a different road home,"